The bar graph shows how different techniques of shopping affect customer satisfaction. 40% of people had a terrible experience while buying online, whereas 75% of people reported a favorable experience while purchasing from a friend or family member. People were most satisfied with their purchases if they were made in person rather than online. The geological picture is of the Earth divided into 3D cross-sections. There are several layers shown in the picture with different color shades. The blue layer is called atmosphere, whereas just after that the layer is called crust. If we go even deeper, the mantle layer forms the middle portion of the Earth, and the innermost portion is made of the outer and inner core. There is also a triangle-shaped section that describes the layers in detail. The uppermost layer is labeled with oceanic crust and continental crust, followed by the upper mantle. The mantle runs further down to meet the outer core of the Earth. Overall, we can conclude that the Earth is made up of many layers of different sizes. In 2000, the world's estimated illiteracy rates by area and gender are shown in the bar graph. Women in sub-Saharan Africa, Arab states and South Asia were the most illiterate, with illiteracy rates hovering just around 50% in each of these regions and as high as 55% in South Asia. They all came from South Asia, where the illiteracy rate was barely around 35%. In South Asia, both men and women were the most illiterate, whereas in industrialized nations, both men and women were the least illiterate. From 2009 to 2013, the operating cash flow and capital expenditures are shown in a line graph. There was a dramatic increase in the amount of operating cash flow between 2009 and 2013, rising from roughly $40,000 to about $85,000. Between 2010 and 2013, the amount spent on capital projects remained steady at around $30,000, with a slight increase in 2011. Capital expenditures were steady, while operational cash flow increased throughout the years. The graph below depicts the cost of owning a pet in the United States. The graph clearly shows that veterinary care and well-being has the highest percentage, at 47%. On the graph, it is obvious that the second largest amount may be found in food and trash, which accounts for 41%. The graph shows that pet purchases account for the lowest share of total spending, at just 2%. Grooming and boarding services account for 10% of total revenue. Blue is the predominant color we perceive while examining food and trash. Finally, the data on pet expenses may be seen in the graph below. The given picture seems to be of two flags of some countries. Surprisingly, both the flags have same colors that are red, green, white, and black, but the patterns in both of them are different. If I talk about the first flag, which is on the left side of the picture, it has a rectangle painted with red color, and it is vertically placed in the leftmost corner of the flag. The stripes are then in order of green, white, and black. Coming to the second flag, which is on the right side, the rectangle is replaced by a triangle with a white asterisk in it. The order is totally opposite to the first flag, that is black, white, and green. Overall, the two flags of some countries have the same vibrant colors in their flags, but the pattern is little different. Thoralby's total population is depicted in the graph below. The graph shows that in 1960, there were roughly 300 people, which is the highest number. According to the graph, the second largest number can be found in 1870, which is around 250. In 1950, there were about 100 people in the world, as can be seen from the graph. When we look at 1890, we can see that there were 200 people. Looking back to the year 2010, we notice that the total was 150. Thoralby's total population is depicted on the graph above. From 1996 to 2012, the data in this graph depicts global wind power capacity. The graph shows that in 2012, there were 283 of them, which is clearly the highest number. The graph shows that 2011, with a total of 238, has the second highest number. The graph shows that the lowest number was in 1996, with a value of 6.1. Finally, the graph shows an increase. An graphic depicts a complicated anaerobic digestion flowchart. Anaerobic creatures are those that cannot exist without oxygen. The graphic begins at the top with the waste feed material node, which is where storage and any pre-treatment takes place. Following that is the digester, from which it breaks into two biogas or separator. Biogas is progressing in biogas storage vessels where it may be utilized as a fuel in cars, turbines or generators, and gas burners or boilers. The separator step is followed by liquor storage and fiber. According to the wording, the liquor might be sold depending on the location. Overall, it appears to be a pretty difficult procedure. The graphic depicts the process of listening to one's favorite music on Tesco Extra. The procedure is straightforward and can be broken down into 4 basic phases. The first step is to go online and look for your favorite music. After you've found it, you'll need to buy the soundtrack. Tesco Extra's site will give you a download once you've made a purchase, and you may then listen to the music you've downloaded. Overall, I can confidently state that, among the several websites that provide the best soundtracks for free, Tesco Extra is a paid music service, as evidenced by the image. The graph below depicts the creation of water channels and how they can be produced. We can see a meander in the first photo, and there are many trees along the meander. There is also a neck in the middle of the meander. However, when we move to the next stage, the sand becomes deposited in the river and eventually, it becomes silt around the river neck. Thus there is a new channel has created, and a new oxbow lake has begun to flow in this direction. To summarize, water and sand pressures are required to sculpt the channels of the oxbow lake. This double bar chart indicates sanctioned outlay vs actual expenditure in the 11th five-year plan in India. According to the bar chart, sanctioned outlay and actual expenditure is almost same during the first, second and fourth year of the plan. But during the third and fifth year of the plan, the gap between sanctioned and actual expenditure increased. It indicates that implementation efficiency is higher in the first, second and fourth year of the 11th five-year plan. But in the third year and fifth year implementation efficiency deteriorated. Thoralby's total population is depicted in the graph below. The graph shows that in 1960, there were roughly 300 people, which is the highest number. According to the graph, the second largest number can be found in 1870, which is around 250. In 1950, there were about 100 people in the world, as can be seen from the graph. When we look at 1890, we can see that there were 200 people. Looking back to the year 2010, we notice that the total was 150. Thoralby's total population is depicted on the graph above. There is a road running along the shore and a cliff in the foreground in this shot. Cars are parked in the foreground, while people are wandering along pathways along the cliff edge, which offers spectacular views of the ocean and a lighthouse in the distance. The contrast between the lush green fields and the sheer height of the cliff's edge, as well as the clear blue sky, is striking. Looking at the weather, it appears to be a beautiful day on England's fabled Dover cliffs. An overhead view of a coastal town is seen in the photo. A white sand beach with a few palm trees and a few boats can be seen on the left side of the photograph, which has been halved. On the right, you will see a collection of residences and flats in what appears to be an affluent area, complete with multiple swimming pools and modern architecture. As if it were somewhere in Florida or the Bahamas, this place is warm and sunny. The sanctioned spending versus actual expenditure in India's 11th five-year plan is depicted in this double bar chart. During the first, second, and fourth years of the plan, the sanctioned expenditures and actual expenditure are almost identical, as seen in the bar chart. However, throughout the plan's third and fifth years, the difference between sanctioned and actual spending widened. It shows that the 11th five-year plan's implementation efficiency is greater in the first, second, and fourth years. However, implementation efficiency worsened in the third and fifth years. Sales of cotton candy by age are represented graphically in the pie chart. 30% of all cotton candy was sold to those between the ages of 30 and 39. People aged 50 to 59 accounted for 6% of all cotton candy sales. Consumers aged 30 to 39 bought the most cotton candy, while consumers aged 50 to 59 bought the least. From 1960 to 2010, this line graph depicts the yearly average number of hospital visits in Glasgow, Scotland, per resident. Hospital visits per capita in 1960 averaged 2.23 per year. In 1990, this number climbed significantly to 2.5. The average number of hospital visits per person per year had increased to 3.2 in 2010. Between 1960 and 2010, the average number of hospital visits per person in Glasgow increased. From 2020 through 2045, the bar graph shows the percentage of Japanese citizens 65 and older. The elderly Japanese population is expected to climb from 16% in 2020 to nearly 30% in 2045, a significant increase. The number of Japanese citizens 65 and older is expected to nearly double in the next decades. The graphic shows how milk is produced. At a dairy, there is a milking and processing step. Grazing cows are milked twice daily by a milking machine, and the milk is stored in refrigerators or delivered to the dairy daily in a milk tanker. This milk is either made into cheese, butter or pasteurized for later use in supermarkets and stores when it arrives at the dairy.